It's a Thought Police free zone. The Liberty Lineup radio show, where independent thought just can't be bought.
I'm an American. Red, white, and blue. And I'm a citizen of this world and of heaven. Some things were meant to be together. I believe in faith and freedom. Got a country too. I believe with faith and freedom, we're gonna make it through.
And welcome to the Liberty Lineup Friday show. This is the Hollywood Y Guy. It's a day of mourning. LaVoy Finicum is being laid to rest this morning. We have Sherilyn Eager reporting live from Kanab, Utah, where the funeral's being held. Was his death murder or justified? We've dug up information to share. You're not getting it on mainstream media outlets. Tune in. Coming up right now.
We gotta rise up, we gotta stay strong, 'cause everything's on the line. We gotta rise up, we gotta stay strong, to save our way of life. I believe in
And welcome to the Liberty Lineup Friday show. I'm the Hollywood Y Guy, Jeff Chamberlain, here in the studio hosting, right here on K-Talk Radio, AM 630, 801-254-5855, 254-5855. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'd love to hear from you a little bit later on. There's a lot of important things going on in the world today, for sure. You don't have to go to Washington, D.C. to find out what's going on, or even to find something that actually is important to talk about. Right here in the state of Utah, we've got issues brewing: states' rights versus federal rights, county rights, personal liberties. It's all being talked about. It's being debated, and it appears to be at stake. The stakes are high. Folks, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hollywood Y Guy. What do you know about the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, what its purpose is? I never used to know what that was about. Is it just one more of those bureaucratic agencies of the federal government that's just spinning out of control? We're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got some folks that are going to be joining us a little bit later on. We're looking for answers here. And if you've got some answers, if you've got some comments, 801-254-5855, 801-254-5855. We're looking for answers. And I'm, of course, the why guy. I think if we can start asking the right questions, maybe we can get some right answers. But let's at least just open up the discussion. Let's open up the debate. We've got someone who's going to be joining us the second hour, somebody you're going to want to hear from. He's going to be coming up. His name is Stan Summers. He's a city councilman from Box Elder County, and he's got some interesting insights to share. We still have some folks that are still up there hanging out in that refuge compound. We had Sean and his wife Sandy on last week. We're still trying to make contact with them, and we've got information to share on that as well coming up second hour. This first hour, we'll be checking in with Sherilyn Eager. Sherilyn Eager, of course, is our host on Tuesdays. Fire in the Line with Tim Irwin. She's down in Kanab right now covering the funeral. And there are a lot of folks, of course, that are gathering. The press is descending on that little town. And we will be getting a live report from her coming up. Don't want to miss that. That's 801-254-5855. If you've got a question, call in. Welcome to the Liberty Lineup Radio Show.
Hey, I don't know if my question would be more appropriate for Tuesday or not, because I'm not really familiar with your lineup during the week. But I have a couple questions here, okay, and a couple interesting concerns and perspectives that I've noticed since this whole nonsense and Burns, which I don't agree with, has all begun. First item I want to bring up, the day that LaVoy was shot, which I think is sick, he did not deserve to die, that we agree on. There was some articles and a whole bunch of crazy posts going all over social media. And let me share with you exactly the first one that I saw. LaVoy Finicum shot dead, execution style, shot in the face while kneeling down with his hands up. Sherilyn wrote an article on her show about how she was at the Finicum's house the night they got word that he had been shot, and also stated execution style. Then Mark McConnell comes up, gives his statement. Of course, everybody says he's an FBI informant. Of course you would. It doesn't back up your story.
Oh, wait. Hold on 1 second. Whose story? Whose story is this?
Mark McConnell.
Right. We know Mark McConnell, and there's no question about his story not jiving with a lot of the testimony offline, so to speak, that's being put forth right now. There's no question about that. So, you know what's
well, that's
here's
in your
here's
mind.
yeah here's
That's
here's
your opinion.
No, you're right, and I'm going to suggest the following. You're referring to very early stage information and the processing of it. And so I'm not sure how relevant it is today. So I would ask you first, before we go through and try to regurgitate the beat by beat of the last 10 days, that do you have any new information that we can talk about here?
Okay.
Or questions?
Well, this is what the information I'm trying to bring to you is.
Good. What is that?
From the beginning, Aaron Bundy said this was a peaceful protest. He was doing God's work, right? Correct? LaVoy was a God-fearing man, correct? Okay. So during this process, anybody that has disagreed with any of you.
Oh, any of you. Well, listen, are you talking to me or are you talking to other hosts?
I'm talking about all of you who fully believe in what's going on in Burns.
Well, they're not here in the room. See, you're talking to me right now, and if you're interested in what my opinion is,
well,
that's
then
a different story.
So if you're going to take apart everything that I say and not let me get my point around,
well,
it's
make your point, but I'll tell you what's
for me
useless.
to even be on the air because you're not letting me give my opinion.
Well, state your opinion, and
my opinion
I'm
is
all
this
ears.
was stated that this was supposed to be a peaceful protest, doing God's work. The one thing that I have noticed, and I won't make references to you people, the people that were involved in this seem to have started to attack the other people who disagree with them. Most recently, last night on this station, on another talk show host, which the majority of us never call your show.
Mm-hmm.
We just leave you guys alone leave your show alone and your listeners alone to do whatever it is you do.
And that's you guys. I'm not sure who you guys are. I don't have a name here.
Okay, I'm saying you, your hosts, and your listeners.
Mm-hmm. And
okay? That's who I'm referring to.
And you
Period.
guys don't call in. I'm just not sure who those you guys
Well,
are.
because we're not going to follow the sheeple line of belief here. We actually did investigation, research, and there's a whole bunch of stuff
Great.
that
Well, listen,
I could show you and give to you to disprove
love-
a lot of the stuff
I'd love
that's being
to.
stated as fact.
I'd love to hear what that information is. I've given you about 3 or 4 minutes to share with us here on K-Talk Radio, AM 630, some information that we don't have, possibly, or something new. You say you have some. We're going to have to
Okay,
move
so-
to another caller because This is
Okay, yeah. This is what you got. This
No,
is
don't
what
say you
people
guys.
like you do. You try
Listen-
to cut us down. You don't let us finish our thoughts.
share the
I get it.
information.
I get it. Unless I'm one of your idiot sheeple, you're going to keep cutting me off.
Well, if
Thank
you would.
you. That's all I needed.
Okay, my friend. There you go. Well, this is what we deal with here in America, where I think we still have freedom of speech, but right here on the radio show, my finger is on the dial, and I'm very interested to know what people might have to say, and if they've got anything new or relevant, then please say it. But come on the air to attack hosts and attack those who we are actually honoring today. In fact, this would not be the day to try to call in and to piece together a legal case about one way or the other on this issue. 801-254-5855, 254-5855.
He's like, he put his hands up on the so they could see he didn't have a gun. He's like, but I'm not. He's like, I'm not. He's like, we're going to talk to the sheriff right now. He's like, you guys can follow us there, that's fine. He's like, but we're talking to the sheriff. He said, either you can put a bullet through my head right now and get it over with, or we're going to talk to the sheriff. And they were like, no. And so then they're like stepping it up, and a bunch more guys are coming out, and they're all pulling their guns out. And they were like, we have women in the car. We have, because there's me and this other lady in the car that I don't know real well. But we have women in the car. They said, get the women out of the car. Get the women out of the car. And they're saying they're going to shoot. And Ryan Payne was like, he was in the front seat. Ryan Payne is amazing. He is incredible. But anyhow, so he was like, he said he put his hands out the window because he was trying to talk to them. He was like, if he wanted the guy to just, he's like, I don't know if it's worth it. He's like, so he put his hands out the window and he said, we have women in the car, at least let the women get out. And he stuck his hand out and they shot at him, but they missed him, or like he talked just in time. So they didn't hit him. And then they're like, oh, they mean business. They're going to shoot us. And so Ryan decided to get out of the car and try to go talk to them. And so he gets out of the car, and then the guy tried to talk to them. The driver was like, I'm just going to drive. He's like, I'm just going to talk to the sheriff. And he's like, so either shoot me now or leave us alone. And they were just like, turn the car off and put your hands up on it. Oh, so finally, he decided to just drive. So we all got down on the floorboard, and he took off. And then
Well, folks, that's Victoria Sharp, the 18-year-old. She was there as a singer who was helping to entertain, lift the spirits of those there. She was right there and witnessed it. All this testimony, in a sense, was given shortly thereafter. We are going to be going to a break here. I know we've got calls coming in. Please hold if you can. Please call at 801-254-5855. That's 254.
It's changing the game in tire performance.
Made in America, made in America. This is the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy. We are back, and we are trying to piece together what this family is like in many ways. This is a day down in southern Utah. This would be in Kanab. That we have Sherilyn Eager down there right now, who's covering for us here on the Liberty Lineup Radio Show the activities, the events of what's going on down there in Kanab. And we'd like to welcome Sherilyn to the show. Sherilyn, are you there?
Hello, Jeff. How
Hi.
are you?
Good, good. How are you? That's the question.
Well, it is a brisk February morning, bright and sunny, and people are starting to assemble from all over the country, actually. Quite amazing.
I'm not surprised. Of course, this is I'm actually a little surprised that it's not picked up more in the mainstream media. Although if they did, I'm not sure what they would have to talk about. I think Donald Trump is just a little bit more interesting, and the debate between him and Cruz. On the other hand, we have real issues at stake here in a real debate that's worth paying a little attention to, and I'm excited and interested to know what's going on there, boots on the ground, so to speak, in Kanab.
Yeah. Well, we have, of course, pretty strong security, the cooperation of 2 county sheriff's offices here, and Utahns will be very happy to know that we have a constitutional sheriff here in Utah, Tracy. But anyway, that's his first name.
Yes.
And he has done a very good job working with the family and with all of us. And he said that he called the FBI and told them not to show up.
Did he really? Did he really?
Yes, indeed. So,
I didn't know. You know, honestly, I was raised in an era, I think, in America here, where such things weren't even conceivable in my mind. You don't call the FBI up and tell them not to show up. In fact, I think we've all got used to the idea that the FBI is the ultimate law enforcement authority, and whatever they say goes. And I think there's just there's some issues here that we need to try to ferret through, don't we, as
Right,
to
yeah.
jurisdiction and
Well,
different things.
it's the family is starting to assemble. There's a viewing. Actually, it's open casket. And he's just a good man, and people coming to pay their respects who have known him with his outreach everywhere. The family, of course, is trying to be a private family in a very, very public setting.
Oh,
now.
I can't
that's
even
difficult.
imagine. I can't even imagine how difficult it is. And I know you've spent some time with the family over the last 3 or 4 days behind closed doors. You've spent time with them even before, and have been invited in to be there. And you've got some insights that I'd love to be able to get, because honestly, right now today, Sherilyn, this show isn't about trying to piece together what happened or didn't happen on the day of the shooting. Everybody's talking about the videos and analyzing the videos. We had a caller that came on. I don't know if you heard, but he had a case that he wanted to present here on the show. Quite frankly, he had nothing new to offer, and he was nothing but talking points trying to analyze and promote his philosophy and opinion. We don't really want to go that direction today. 801-254-5855 is the call-in number right here on K-Talk Radio, AM 630. This is the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy, and I have Sherilyn Eager, who is our co-host on Tuesdays, Fire in the Line, and she's down there right now with a little bit of wind noise, I think, going on there,
You know
Sherilyn.
what, Jeff? You're getting wind noise.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to get to where it's not. Is this helping at all?
Yeah, it sounds better. It's not all the time, but we do get those little bursts, and I know you're right out there in blistering cold weather.
Yeah, right. But let me just give a brief overview of the family. This is where we need to be today and where we need to stay. I agree with you. Analysis at this point is not what we're doing today. We are with a family who is a very real family. They're beautiful people. They're faithful. They are rock solid in their hopeful and optimistic, looking forward to carrying on the desires and the goals and the mission of their father. And it's just amazing to see and hear from them what love and admiration they had for their father.
Oh,
And they characterize him as a very loving man, a man who serves people. He even bought a home for a woman who was destitute and her family. And that's the kind of man that this is. And certainly the media did not portray him that way.
They didn't, and they aren't even today. They don't know the man. I am looking at, for example, his book, Only by Blood and Suffering. The subtitle is Regaining Lost Freedom. This is that novel by LaVoy Finicum. But in the acknowledgments early on, America the Beautiful, to give you an insight as to who this man is and who the family is and what kind of philosophy he had and embraced. Oh, beautiful, for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. He chose those words out of that song, America the Beautiful, and printed it in the very front of his book for a reason. This meant a lot to him, a lot to him. He was a patriot, and as you were talking about, he was a real family man in ways that people can't even imagine. Tell us about his children and his adopted children.
Yes, 11 children. They call it a yours, mine, ours, and theirs family. They were one of two foster parents in the state of Arizona that were given the license to bring in teenage boys, and very well respected. And this family is a tight-knit family, and it just is a testimony of how much he was respected and loved and what a great father he was. And so two of his sons worked hard this week and have crafted a beautiful wooden coffin for their father.
Wow.
And it has, how you burn into wood, it has engraved in it one cowboy's stand for freedom.
Oh, man. Oh, listen, if there's anything that we can communicate on this show, I hope it's some insights into the man, into the family, and into the heart of the man and the family. There's another quote here in his book, and I these are carefully chosen quotes that obviously meant a lot to him. Here's the quote: "The fight for freedom is God's fight. When a man stands for freedom, he stands for God. As long as he stands for freedom, he stands with God. And were he to stand alone, he would still stand with God. Any man will be eternally vindicated and rewarded for his stand for freedom." That comes from Ezra Taft Benson. "An enemy hath done this." More insights into the man.
That certainly describes his mission, and we have, I don't know what's going to be happening here, Jeff. We're going to try to connect up at some time before you're finished for the day.
Yes.
With the family's attorney,
Mm-hmm.
who has some insights that he would like to share. There are all kinds of rumors, of course, and we want to make sure that those are kept at a minimum.
Well, we
And
would.
so,
Let's
yeah.
dispel myths and
We'll
rumors.
see if we can connect up with him, and
All
I'll
right.
let you know. We also have one of the eyewitnesses who was in the truck with LaVoy when it encountered the ambush. Her name is Victoria Sharp.
Yes, we just played
And
a clip from her.
If we can locate her, I'm going to do my best.
Yes, that would be
See
great.
what we can do.
That would be great. If you can get her, we'll get it right from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and we'd love to hear from her. She's that young 18-year-old that was hunkered down as the bullets were flying, I understand.
Yeah. That's right. So we do have a lot of media here with us today. It's kind of tough on the family, but they're being very gracious about it, and we're being careful to make sure that it's not intrusive on this day. But
Well, listen, we
just
appreciate you. We
what
appreciate you
you're
being
doing,
there.
Jeff.
Stay in touch. Then, in fact, if you want to stay on the line and mute yourself, that would
Sure, I'd
that
be
would
happy
be
to
fine.
do that, and then therefore, if somebody shows up, I will just chime in. All right.
That'll be fine. I actually am going to play a little clip from the interview. As you know, I mean, you had LaVoy on your show. I had him on my show. I had he and his daughter Tara on my show. I want to share a little bit of the last interview that I did with LaVoy. How many daughters do you have?
I have 8 daughters, all beautiful and wonderful, and the light of my life.
Tara, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, thanks. I'm good, and thanks for having us on. We really appreciate those powerful voices out there that are willing to get the real story out to the public. And my experience in going, it was quite the trek. We caravanned and long drive through the night, and I took my kids with me, my 2 oldest, and my other sisters took their kids too, and it was quite the controversy because my husband wanted to make sure I was safe, and he was just hearing what the media was saying, and I got on my knees, and I don't want to get too religious in sharing sacred experiences, but I got on my knees and I prayed, and I told my Heavenly Father that I have decided to go, and I am going to move forward with that decision, and if this is contrary to my safety, please make it very clear to me. And then I got up and I started packing my bags, and I was just filled with a sense of peace and calm. And we got in the car and we left. We got there. We stayed in.
That was an interview with Tara Tenney, who's the daughter, one of the 8 daughters of LaVoy Finicum. Finicum is on that interview as well, and I'll be playing a little bit of that later on. But this was just a week or so before his death, and the reason I'm playing this is to give you some insights as to who he is and who his family is. It's really quite disturbing in some ways when you think of the family and their loss and what they must be going through, at least at this point. Forget about politics. Forget about a debate as to whether or not a certain way to fight for freedoms and liberties is the best way or not. Forget that for just 1 second and consider the fact that we had a man and a family supporting that man who was so committed to the principles of liberty that he was, in fact, willing to lay down his life for that. For that, we can honor him and his family. And I look forward to the debate next week and the ensuing weeks and months ahead. But by golly, if that isn't a call for discussion, I understand there's a song that they all sang. These are the daughters of the Finicums.
Are you going to agree? Our freedoms are waning and we'll lose our liberty, slipping one by one until there's nothing left to see. Are you willing to stand with me? Are you just going to let it be? The ranchers are first, but brother, next it may be me. We all stand together or we'll hang separately. Are you going to the tree? Are you willing to be free? It won't get any easier to regain lost liberty. Strange things are happening in this land that once was free. So brother, I ask you, are you going to stand by me?
This is K-Talk Radio, AM 630. Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy, on the Liberty Lineup Radio Show.
The American dream has become a nightmare. Signs of the time are on cardboard on corners in town. Like a cancer that's silently spreading, there's an unspoken fear. We're on our way down.
The driver was like, I'm just going to drive, but I'm just going to talk to the sheriff. And he's like, so either shoot me now or leave us alone. And they were just like, turn the car, put your hands up on it. So finally, he said to just drive. So we all got down on the floorboard, and he took off, and then they started firing at us. They started shooting us a bunch of times. And then they had a roadblock set up, and so he ran into a snowbank, and they were like riddling the car with bullets. And then they, when we crashed, they stopped for a second. He got out of the car, and he had his hands in the air. He's like, and rest. He's like, just shoot me then. This is what you want, just shoot me. And they did. They shot him dead.
This is the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Jeff Chamberlain. We're back. AM 630, K-Talk Radio. The Hollywood Why guy. Why? I asked the question why. Why did this happen? Why did this have to happen? There's a lot of unanswered questions. We're going to be hearing some answers later on the second hour. We've got special guests sharing some very important insights as to their experiences with the BLM. The BLM is an agency of the federal government, and the question is, what do they do? What is their purpose and mission? Stan Summers, who is a county commissioner up in Box Elder County, will be joining us on the other side of the hour. I think that what's going on right now deserves attention. I believe that LaVoy Finicum's recent experiences with his family and his death deserve answers, deserves our attention. I think this is a good time to open the discussion. 801-254-5855, 254-5855. Love to hear from you, but if you're interested in talking about the videos and the tapes and they're not matching up and who shot who first, etc., let's save that for next week. Right now, I'm more interested in who LaVoy is, what he stands for, and men and women like him that believe so strongly that the liberties that our ancestors have fought for are important enough that we understand what they are, how they are protected by the Constitution, and how, especially as we start considering who to vote into office, how that is going to either encourage and strengthen the Constitution in this country or not. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, there was construction worker that was crushed to death about, I guess it was last Monday or Tuesday in American Fork. They were putting up a tilled-up building, and I guess the cable broke on the crane, and the slab fell down and crushed him to death. And when they, put it on the news, they only spent about 10 seconds on the story, and they didn't even say his name. And then they went back to that parade that they had with all the flags and the motorcycles and stuff.
Right.
So, it's just weird.
What do you think?
Well, I think they think they're worth more than the rest of us. That's what I think.
Who's they? Who are you talking about? Who's the they?
Law enforcement, the police, and all that. They, they're worth more than our children and your siblings, you name it, your relatives.
Well, listen.
That's why they treated LaVoy that way, is because they wanted to set up an ambush, and but really they, it's just weird. It's just we're just cattle.
Well, I know you're struggling like many of us to try to get our arms around.
There's 1,000 construction workers that die every year, and like 150 law enforcement personnel, if that, maybe 75 or 80.
Mm-hmm.
But there's almost 1,000 construction workers that die every year. Nobody says a thing.
Life is precious, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're all worth the same. The Black Lives Matter. Everybody matters.
That is so true. I want to thank you for calling in. Thank you so much. Please call in again. This is the Liberty Lineup radio show. Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy. We've got calls that are lighting up, 801-254-5855. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
What's on your mind?
Well, actually, I just wanted to make a recommendation for a potential future guest.
Who is that?
Her name is Chris Ann Hall. That's Kriss Anne Hall, Hall.
Right.
She actually has her own radio show out of Florida, but she is a constitutional lawyer, and I've never heard anyone articulate the powers of the Constitution and like she has.
She does a great job. There's a YouTube out there under Kriss Ann Hall, and it's about 10 to 12 minutes long, as I recall, maybe 15. She doesn't.
Well, she has a bunch of segments on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. I just heard one that came out just a couple of weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it really articulates the importance of the Constitution, and she understands it in ways and can describe it in ways that a lot of people fail miserably at doing. I want to thank you for
Jeff,
calling in.
Just
Yes.
wanted to chime in on that.
Thank you. Yes.
Chris Ann Hall, we've been trying to connect with, actually, to get on one of the shows. She was up in Oregon and was teaching a large group of people that LaVoy had assembled together about the legalities and the Constitution and how what they were doing was a legitimate cause.
Well, yes, it is certainly, and you bring up a really good point, Sherilyn. There seems to be this misguided notion that LaVoy and company were up there trying to rabble-rouse and trying to intimidate. The fact is, they were on a mission to educate, were they not?
Yeah, she's an attorney, and so she gave us a very powerful presentation. So go online, find it.
Yep, there you go.
We should. I think we have it on our Facebook page somewhere.
I think we do, and that would be the Liberty Lineup radio show on Facebook, right?
Yep.
There we go. We've got another caller. We've got Phil. Phil, welcome to the Liberty Lineup radio show. I'm the Hollywood Y Guy. What's on your mind?
You're asking, what caused all this? I mean, you've got to see it. You got to say it for what it is. Our country has become this government machine, the largest employer in our country here. And they don't have any more tools up their sleeve to sustain their way of life. So now the last thing left is our lands. And they're going to mortgage that next. And they're going to give it to the highest bidder. Our country doesn't log anymore. We don't mine anymore. Now they want to go after all the cattle ranchers. They're trying to stop us from being dependent. It's globalization. And the American people are so stupid, but they'll be wearing right in front of that Super Bowl television coming up in a couple of days, worrying about who's got the greatest commercial. Well, that's where you guys need to be, because that's where the establishment wants you. They can control you.
Well, you raise a great point. I'll tell you that's a discussion that I have a lot coming from Hollywood and the media. In many ways, the media is designed to dumb down America and distract us from the key issues at hand.
Let's look at the forest fires we have in our country on an annual basis now. And all the money that we waste putting out fires in areas that nobody even lives in. If they're not going to get out there and let the loggers log it, let it burn. because I'm tired of wasting my money. This is like these legislators up on Capitol Hill in Utah this week, sidestepping all the problems and creating all these bills that are basically not addressing any of the real bad issues. They're just creating busy work for themselves. Why don't they take some time and get rid of some bills and get rid of some laws off the books? For every 3 they put on, take 6 off.
I'll tell you what, if we could just somehow do some negative legislation, which is send people to Washington that are going to unravel this absolute morass. And I'm not sure why we want to send people to Washington to legislate more.
You know, I understand things need to be done, but my God, this has been 30-some-odd years I've been watching a whole lot of nothing getting done, with more energy being wasted and money than I've ever seen in my life.
I wonder why do we want Washington to do stuff? That's kind of a question that I have. Do we really want Washington to do stuff? I'd love for people to go there and just not do as much as they think they need to do. Let's stop them.
Decrease the size of it.
That's
because
right.
our states, we keep sending our money to the federal government, and then we got to beg for it back.
Doesn't make sense to you.
Where's all the tree huggers after that one?
Well, listen, I want to thank you. You expressed the opinion, the sentiment of a lot of people. There's a lot of frustration out there, and I get it. Let's see what we can do about finding some solutions here. Thank you for calling in. Sherilyn, how are things shaping up there? We're almost at the top of the hour here. Do we have anybody?
Hey, Jeff?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm outside. It's a little windy again. Things are absolutely buzzing. I don't know how they're going to fit all these people in. They're already getting filled up in the building, and it's not even 11 o'clock, and the funeral's not till 2. So
is this the viewing?
It's
is this the viewing?
Spectacular thing, I believe. And
Yep.
I'm out here with the media trucks right now, trying to keep things organized. And I just have to share one quick thing.
All right.
The family took a blue tarp, cut it up in little squares, and they're giving it to people to pin on their lapels in honor of Tarp Man.
Tarp Man, and he was known and dubbed Tarp Man because he was covering himself in that blue tarp on MSNBC and a few other newscasts as he was trying to shelter himself from the blistering cold up there and weathering the storm. I want to thank you, Sherilyn, for being there, boots on the ground.
Yeah, and if we can find the attorney next hour, I'll text you and we'll see what we can do.
Let's
okay?
see what we can put together, and also if you can find Victoria Sharp, that would be wonderful, and we'll be standing by.
We'll try to do both of those things, try to make it happen.
You got it.
Appreciate what you're doing, Jeff.
Thank you so much, and likewise.
Bye-bye.
This is the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. I'm Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy, right here on K-Talk Radio, AM 630. We are talking about liberty. We're also acknowledging the memorial services of LaVoy Finicum and family and his tragic death just 10 days ago as he stood for liberty and actually drew a line in the sand, so to speak, in ways that a lot of us don't and can't. On the other side of the hour, more coming up right here on the Liberty Lineup Radio.
It's a Thought Police free zone. The Liberty Lineup Radio Show, where independent thought just can't be bought.
I'm an American. Red, white, and blue. And I'm a citizen of this world and of heaven. Some things were meant to be together. I believe in faith and freedom. Got a country too. I believe with faith and freedom. We're gonna make it through.
And Welcome back. Welcome back to the Liberty Lineup Friday show. I'm the Hollywood Y Guy, Jeff Chamberlain, here in the studio hosting on K-Talk Radio, AM 630, 801, 254-5855, 254-5855. We've got another hour coming up. We are covering down in Kanab, Utah, Sherilyn Eager, who is covering the funeral. That would be LaVoy Finicum's funeral. We have guests coming up, and we're discussing what's going on. Is there a reason for all this craziness? Thank you for joining us this morning. I'd love to hear from you. A lot going on, a lot of important things going on in the world today. You really don't have to go to Washington, D.C. to start to debate and understand some of the key issues that affect us right here in the state of Utah. What do you know about the BLM? What do they do? What does the Bureau of Land Management do? What's their purpose? What's their mission? We are going to hear a little bit about that. Hopefully we'll get some answers from Stan Summers, who's going to be with us coming up in a few minutes. He's a county commissioner up there in Box Elder County. Do these ranchers have a beef? Is there anything about their cause that is grounded in legitimacy? A lot of people don't think so. Let me play you this clip. This is from an interview that I had with him just 2 or 3 weeks ago. That would be LaVoy Finicum. Just prior to his untimely death, he talks about some of the grievances. Let's see what he has to say.
These ranchers, their homes, their houses, their ranchers, private land, and they allowed the waters to rise until they were completely flooded out. And they left it flooded out until the people were broke and gone, and then they let it go down, and then they just took the land.
They reclaimed the land.
There is a long train of real specific abuse in this county, and so the ranchers that are coming here and meeting with us daily are standing up. In fact, the neighboring counties are reaching out to us, and we're going over to meet to the neighboring counties because they want to hear this. They want the support, and so this is good things. These are good things that are happening. This is about freedom.
He seems to think, LaVoy and company seem to think there is a real issue going on here. He was talking about the BLM and their tactics. A couple of weeks ago, maybe it was 3 weeks ago, we also played a clip of ranchers up in that area in Oregon that were chronicling and also documenting fires that were being started by the BLM around their ranchers in an effort to burn them out, all under the guise of backburning, which is a legitimate process to manage the overgrowth. But it was being done at the wrong time of year, the wrong season, and they were specifically targeting ranches, and buildings and structures were burned down, cattle was destroyed. This is very disturbing. If this is endemic, if this is pandemic, if this is going on not only in Oregon but around the country, we've got a serious issue. Just last week, we had it was a hearing. It was a congressional hearing in St. George. Natural Resources Public Hearing. Our representative, Jason Chaffetz, was there. Chris Stewart was there. Tom McClintock from California. I know him from California. Very strong, outspoken representative in California. They all got together to deal with some of these issues and grievances of the people of southern Utah, representing people from around the country. It wasn't just southern Utah. They were coming from Arkansas. They were coming from Oregon. They were coming from all over. I'm going to play a quick little clip of that hearing. This is Tom McClintock
Public Lands
speaking.
Management Act of 2009. We're here because Congress is hearing a crescendo of complaints about BLM tactics and policies across the country, and St. George seems to be a poster child of BLM bad behavior. We are here to get to the bottom of it. During this congressional session, the Federal Lands Subcommittee has sought to reinstate 3 fundamental principles for our stewardship over the federal lands. First, to restore the public's right to use and enjoy the public's lands. Preserving our lands for future generations does not mean closing them to this generation. Second, to restore principles of sound management to the public lands. That was Gifford Pinchot's maxim for the Forest Service, to manage the lands for the greatest good for the greatest number in the long run. Third, to restore the federal government as a good neighbor to those communities that are impacted by land ownership. That means we don't run roughshod over the wishes of local communities. We are concerned that a corporate culture has taken root within BLM that is antithetical to these principles. In 2009, Congress adopted and the President signed.
Enough of that for now. That's Tom McClintock. This is a congressional hearing in St. George, and it happened just January 22nd, last week. Jason Chaffetz was there, Representative Chris Stewart, Tom McClintock, and other representatives from around the country. More coming up on that. This appears to be legitimate. This is not a fabrication in the minds of a LaVoy, Finicum, and the Bundys. This is an issue that deserves attention. We're going to hear more about that very, very, very soon. This is the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y guy. And we have callers calling in on 801-254-5855, 254-5855. Welcome to the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say thank you for doing this for LaVoy, honoring him today. You had not to regress, but you had a gentleman call, or a man call in earlier, giving you a hard time, the very first caller. And I just wanted to remind him and everyone, if he's listening, that there are disagreements on both sides of the fence, and there are people on both sides of the fence that post inaccuracies in some way. So that being said, I think LaVoy knew in a way that this was going to happen. He had some situations where he said that he would rather die than go to prison. He wants to defend his liberty and our liberty. And I'll share something with you only because it was on social media, and I'm sure several people have seen it. But the last set of flowers that he gave his wife was roses, and the inscription with the roses said, "I will love you till the last rose dies."
Wow.
And they're live roses, and then they put a fake rose in with it, and so that fake rose will never die.
Mm.
And I was also aware of that. I had heard by a credible person that his vehicle had stopped working while he was up there, and he was saying, "I need to get back home, take care of my family, my cattle, and whatnot." And he couldn't leave because his vehicle had stopped working, and so somebody else let them ride with him, and he was kind of stuck there. And I look at this in the sense of this actually being a miracle, just because something like this had to happen to move this process forward. And unfortunately, it had to take his life. He was the one that Heavenly Father chose to be the one to make that happen for all of us here.
Sometimes, thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Yes, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, rather than look at this as a bad thing, like I said, I look at it as a miracle, a God-given miracle, and I truly, truly believe that, that LaVoy, oh goodness, knew something was going to happen just by virtue of him being willing to stay, because I'm sure that he could have made arrangements to get home. Let me compose myself. I'm sorry.
It's okay, Jackie.
this just touches me to no end and many other people across the nation. And I just hope and pray that this backbiting will stop. The man that called earlier, he did not need to do that. He did not need to try and raise contention during this show of all shows. And I hope that people will look at this in a different light, the way that I have been able to process this and turn it into a God-given miracle. And I just hope that we can all pray and stand behind the family and stand behind our nation for each other, because we only have each other to get through this. And I'm so grateful that you have this venue that you can raise awareness for the people of the U.S., and I applaud you for that, and I thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for your heartfelt comments and your insights. There is an emotional, spiritual component to this experience in our lives here. We can't ignore it. And we marry that with the reality and the debate that goes on and the legislative issues and discussion. And hopefully we can push things towards harmony and peace. I know that's what everybody desires. Thank you so much for calling in. We've got a break that we're going to be going to in just a second. But speaking of the debate, listen to Tom McClintock just briefly before we go.
Concerns when local governments and concerned citizens have repeatedly raised them. This subcommittee doesn't normally hold hearings on individual land use plans, but it appears that the BLM, which administers nearly half of the land area of Washington County, has ignored the will of Congress and thumbed its nose at the people whose taxes support this government and whose livelihoods and quality of life are now directly threatened by it. When one of Darth Vader's victims protests, "But that's not our agreement," Darth Vader sneers, "I am altering the agreement. Pray I do not alter it further." If bad faith and empty promises become the coin of the federal realm, it is highly unlikely anyone will enter into land use negotiations with it again or trust it in the future. Instead, St. George will be used as a cautionary tale that Ronald Reagan was right when he said, if you get in bed with the federal government, you better be prepared for a good night's sleep.
Okay.
We are here because Congress will not
be prepared not to get a very good night's sleep. This is the Liberty Lineup radio show. Jeff Chamberlain. We are talking about what's going on here, the ranchers. We're talking about the BLM. We have Stan Summers going to join us, a county commissioner from Box Elder County, on the other side of this break. Stay with us. 801-254-5855.
Some have said down through history, if you last, it's a mystery, but I guess they don't know.
The Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy. We are here on AM 630 K-Talk Radio. K-Talk, live, local, two-way talk. We are discussing liberties. We're discussing the issues of BLM management. We have a hearing that went on a couple of weeks ago. Maybe it was just last week down in St. George. Representatives from around the country who are weighing in, and that would include our Representative Chris Stewart, Jason Chaffetz as well, and others. We have a special guest who is going to be joining us very, very, very soon, coming up in just a couple of minutes. As soon as I finish playing this one little clip from Chris Stewart, I want you to all hear that. Stan Summers will be with us right after that, the county commissioner from Box Elder.
For my comments and make a personal observation, and I would say if there are two words that describe the process, I would say those two words are broken trust. Because we had an agreement, And many of us feel as if that agreement has been violated. And if you want to understand why so many people distrust the federal government, this is a good example of it. When they feel like they're not listened to, when they feel like their concerns are not addressed, when the process is tilted against them, when they feel like there is no process for redress. And the presumption is that I'm a Republican, therefore I hate the environment and I want to destroy it. I think it's absurd. There's a reason that I choose to live in Utah. It's because I love Utah and I want to preserve it for my children too. And once again, there are so many who look at me and say, you are a Republican, you want to destroy the land. I think it's nuts to start with that point of view.
That was Representative Chris Stewart. Chris Stewart, who weighed in at this congressional hearing down in St. George just last week. This seems to be a real issue, folks, a real issue that we all need to discuss and bring up. I am looking forward to bringing on Stan Summers, who is the county commissioner of Box Elder County. Welcome to the show, Stan.
Hey, it's good to be with you.
Thank you for making some time for us here.
No problem. I just got through setting about 5 windshields on my other job, and I'm going to take a half hour with you.
Listen, well, my friend, we appreciate that, and if all of the servants, public servants, had their own other job, I think this country and our interests might be better served to a certain extent.
Yes, I believe that it keeps you humble enough to realize where your money's really coming from and how taxes really affect people. So,
well, you are right up there in the trenches. You are when you're talking about county commissioners, you're working with the people up there. Can you tell us just a little bit about your background briefly? We've got the issues to cover, but also your responsibilities there on the commission.
You know, I was actually brought up on a small dairy farm here in eastern Tremont and up in northern Box Elder County. Was able to spend a lot of time out in the West Desert towards Grass Creek Park Valley in that area. I grew to love all the things that has to do with the county. I only spent 4 years away from this area when I played football for Utah State, and came back and still was considered, I don't know, I wouldn't say too political, but in my later years, I should say, when I got to be 30 and 35, I decided that there had to be a better way with some people that had some voices. My dad ran for county commissioner back in the 80s as a Democrat and lost. But here I am 4 years later, going into my hopefully second term in this next year. So,
wow. Well, thank you for your service. And while your father was a Democrat, how did your politics evolve?
Well, I think back in the 80s that Democrats were basically Republicans, you know, before the Ronald Reagan era. My dad used to do the Sagebrush Rebellion a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He was in for the farmers getting parity for what they grew.
Sure.
Did a lot of things like that. He was a member of the Farmers Union, Farm Bureau. My mom and dad were into those things, but really, you'd have to take a page out of Governor Herbert's book that he always says that commissioners where the rubber meets the road. How many times have you heard that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, you've lived this life, farming, ranching. And I can only imagine that from your father and even before, you've heard a lot about the BLM. You've worked with the BLM. What is your experience, past and present?
You know, when I was growing up, really the BLM wasn't the four-letter word that it is now. I think that they could see that the only way that they could survive was to continue the practices that the farmers and things have done for generations, and that were helping them to promote the health of forests, the health of the grazing lands, to do the best use, equal access to justice type stuff where they could, you know, bring four-wheelers in and courses and things like that. But for some reason in the last, I don't know, maybe the last 30 years, we've had problems with the ideology back in Washington, D.C. that has...
No, I don't think it's unique to Utah.
Yep, sorry.
What's that?
Yes, the ideology. What's happened in the last 30 years?
Well, I think they're to the point where they think that they can museum manage things that, it's like the don't touch, don't tell. Nobody wants to do anything. We've got 2 projects in Box Elder County right now that, between here and Garfield County, it's a potash plant that wants to do a potash in western Box Elder County, and in Garfield County, the BLM won't let it come in because it's in the view shed of the Donner Trail, if you understand that one.
Wow. Yeah. Yes.
So, and then another one that I can't talk about right now, they're telling us that they have to do a total environmental study, and these people only want to cross the BLM ground to get to some water rights and do some things which could put them back 3 to 4 years. So
what's the motivation on all of this behind it, do you think? Is this legitimate?
No. I mean, if they're talking about shutting down a multi-billion-dollar project because it's in the view shed of the Donner Trail, so we're going to make another bad decision to promote people who made another bad decision. And the biggest thing I think that bothers me is you go 30 miles to the west, and in Nevada, there's mining companies all up and down the Donner Trail. So what, isn't the Bureau of Land Management supposed to be a national government, not state by state, and picking and choosing who they go with and who they don't?
Right.
Depending on how much their senators tell them what to do and what not to do.
Well, these are issues that a lot of folks just don't know. They just don't understand what really is being discussed. The BLM is this huge agency, a bureaucratic agency with a budget that I have no idea what it is. All I know is it's huge. It's just huge.
Well, I think the thing that scares you is I think Jason Chaffetz actually asked the leader of the BLM down at those congressional hearings about how many employees she had in Utah, and she is new to the area, but
right.
She says, well, somewhere between 900 and 950.
Yes, 900, and I have a clip of her saying that very thing and going on about how yes, and we're very dedicated to implementing the law and enforcing the law. It's basically a whole bunch of policemen out there to enforce the law. Did you hear earlier the clip from Chris Stewart that
I did.
Played?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And he's very troubled by this. He's very troubled, as of course Jason Chaffetz is, and Tom McClintock from California. Everybody is
Right.
about what's going on.
Meetings with everybody after those. We were with Rob Bishop, who's my
Rob Bishop.
representative.
I forgot to mention Rob Bishop. Of course, he's there.
Yeah.
Big on this.
And I think their biggest problem is now we've got to the point where non-elected officials are not only making policy, but they're actually backing it up by the use of force and or legal terms. I think the other thing that bothers me, we don't have as big a problem as some of the other counties like Iron and Beaver County, but the wild horse and burro problem.
Right.
If we could just take the overgrazing by the BLM that's actually breaking their own laws and their EMUs for these, if the people would understand that, we love wild horses and burros just as much as anybody else, but too
Right.
much of anything is not a good thing.
And if you're going to manage the resources, why would that not be included?
Well, took the words right out of my mouth for the plain fact that there are thousands, tens of thousands of these horses in different places in the United States, and we're paying just to feed them. So eventually they'll die, and it says from $45,000 from the time they go into one of these until the time they pass away. So
Right.
they're talking about between 45 and 65 million a year for these horses that we can actually use to feed people in third world countries.
Sure.
It's a delicacy, and I'm not saying go out there and slaughter everything.
Right.
But these aren't wild horses that people have in their mind running across the plains. They're an inbred feral type of horse that really is not a lot of good for a whole bunch of
These are all difficult issues, of course, for people to get their minds around, right? And especially environmental agencies and people. This is not PETA, et cetera, but politics is certainly messy. I do want to play a quick little clip, an exchange between Chris Stewart about how widespread these issues are. A lot of people think that this is a Utah issue or a Colorado issue. Listen to what is being said
Brief history
here.
of Utah and Mormon persecution. And I have to ask if you think the distrust of the federal government, or in this case, the distrust of citizens in the BLM, is unique to Utah.
No, I don't think it's unique to Utah.
It's clearly not unique to Utah, is it?
And I'm not here to represent the BLM, but I am here to tell you that they have certainly served me well.
I appreciate that, and we understand that some people may have different experiences, but your opening testimony would seem to indicate that this is something that's a problem in Utah, and it's very it's very clearly not.
Congressman, it's a bigger problem in Utah than anywhere else in this country.
Oh, I don't think that's true at all, sir. And we could take you to other states, and they would absolutely disagree with that. But I want to get to my question.
Sure.
And we have evidence of that here, by the fact we've got representatives from as far away as Arkansas who understand that this is a problem. This isn't unique to Utah at all. I would argue it has very little to do with Utah history, with more.
Okay.
I want to ask you.
Okay. Well, there you go. A lot of people would like to minimize this. It appears that LaVoy Finicum actually has a case here and a legitimate beef, as well as the rest of the ranchers. What do you think?
Well, I was there in the audience when he took that question to our ex-attorney general. There's kind of a disconnect, in my opinion, that people don't realize that food doesn't come from a store, milk doesn't come from a store, the things that you drive, the things that you heat your home with, all come from people working to get that to your table or to your house. We just can't pop things out of the air. There's people that work. There's people that do these things and bring these things to you. When the distrust starts talking about how can we be 17 or 19 trillion dollars in debt and still not go out and let people do things on the land that we need to do, that we've done for generations.
Right.
My kids are fifth generation pioneers here in our area. I mean, one of my grandfathers homesteaded where I live. And now we're to the point where some of the EPA and things are saying that we're in a non-attainment area, which means attainment of what?
What does that mean, non-attainment area?
So a 2.5 non-attainment area says that 2.5 particles, and this is a big buzzword now with the clean air and everything coming up. Well, it's basically something that they have set a level for that we're not supposed to go over and below.
Okay, got it.
Well, Box Elder County is in this non-attainment area. We have one collection site that's behind a McDonald's drive-through in Brigham City for our entire county that is almost as big as Switzerland.
Okay.
And yet they put our entire county into a non-attainment area because we had an EPA official come up and tell us that, well, them mountains go along that, and I can see that you must have part of their airshed, and put us in that way.
Well, listen, as I hear these stories and they're starting to come in, there seems to be no real rational basis for it. It seems like they're stretching and stretching to somehow fit what they want to do into the existing laws. And then there's a constant effort to continue to legislate and change the laws in order to fit what they want to do and what their agenda is. This is the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y guy, here on AM 630 K-Talk Radio. We've got a caller. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Diane.
Hi. I've got so much I want to say about this whole situation. LaVoy Finicum talked about the BLM and how they are basically unelected officials. So if you have a problem, who do you go to appeal? We don't vote for them. We can't get them out of office. They're just there, number one. Number two, it appears that what's happening with these ranchers, and I believe that what they were trying to do is bring attention to their plight. I've watched some of the LaVoy Finicum's videos, and he was talking about how his watering system was being sabotaged and so on and so forth.
Right.
So they wanted to bring attention to their plight, and from what I can see, they were being peaceful. And the shooting,
yes,
it appeared to me that if they were concerned, the FBI, they would have had medical, they would have had an ambulance, they would have had somebody there just in case they got shot. They would have been ducking for cover, but they were standing right out in the open. Anybody in that vehicle, if they were of the intention, could have shot them.
Right. We're coming up on a break, Diane. I want to thank you for calling in for sure. We've got to take this break, and you bring up some points that I'm looking forward to have Stan address about the BLM and the reality of what LaVoy Finicum and company are facing right now as ranchers and farmers. We are back. This is the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy, right here on AM 630, K-Talk Radio. Live local two-way talk, 801-254-5855, 254-5855. We have Stan Summers on the line. He is the excuse me, county commissioner up in Box Elder County. He's weighing in a little bit on his experiences with the BLM and some of the issues that appear to be very, very legitimate. The issues that even LaVoy Finicum felt were important enough to him and us as citizens of this country that he's willing to lay down his life for. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we need to take this seriously. And let's pay some attention to what those issues are. Welcome back, Stan.
Yeah, let me give you another scenario that real quick that everybody's heard about is about the sage grouse.
Right.
In western Box Elder County, we have a ton of leks, is what they call is where they roost, and they count the leks to see if they're a healthy population and such. I basically grew up out there running cows for the Cross-X Ranch in the very north end of Box Elder County, where you could be in Idaho, Nevada, and Utah on the same day over on Cotton Thomas. And, you know, we used to hunt these birds. They weren't very smart, so it wasn't much hunting to them. But the thing is, now that BLM is using this and the Forest Service is trying to stop any development, I'm in a meeting the other day because I'm on the Quality Growth Commission for the state, and the BLM admitted that they don't take the leks on private property. They only count the ones on public property. And when they talk about these numbers, they're telling us that they have no idea what the leks are on private property. Well, one guy did have the information, and they said it's probably double or triple what it is on public ground because private ground is being managed of a point where the sage grouse want to live and raise their leks and things like that. So to tell them that, you know, it should be on the endangered species list is a falsehood. And I've also been told that we're basically collateral damage because they just kind of pick the sage grouse because it's really in eastern Utah where you've got your oil and gas things to where they really want to shut down coal, oil, and gas.
Wow.
And we just happen to be collateral damage.
Collateral damage in the fight for what? What is this fight? Is there a fight going on? Is there a war going on? Who are these people?
In my opinion, it's probably the non-governmental organizations that are in my understanding, I've been told by a couple BLM people, and we love our BLM people that are local.
Sure.
Great people. They want to do the best. But it seems like their hands are tied. I actually had a person that told me that they spend over 47% of their budget on litigation from these non-governmental organizations that basically sue and settle is the government term of
And what is
happening
that?
now.
So is this an intimidation technique?
I think it started to be an intimidation technique until they found out that it was more of a money technique, that they can use this as a business and make millions. Senator Lee actually is putting in a bill that wants EJA, Equal Access to Justice, to tell them how much these people are actually making. And at the last time they said it could be into billions of dollars that they're making off of our tax money with this sue and settle tactic.
Got it. Sue and settle tactic. If you were to boil this down from where you're sitting right now, and especially in the context of what we're in the middle of right now, we are in the middle of, in many ways, celebrating a life of LaVoy Finicum, who laid his life down for principles that he believed in. Is there a connection here?
And I, big Constitution guy, I believe that we have the rights for peaceful assembly. So, I don't want to get lumped in with LaVoy and the Bundys. I've had the opportunity of talking to him on Facebook a few times. We do have a legitimate gripe, but do we go after it with AK-47s and things? And now, let me throw another one to you. Or do we do a peaceful ride in southern Utah on a trail that's been wrapped up for 8 or 10 years on a BLM study, and yet still people are harmed and put in jail,
Are they?
lives threatened?
Did this actually happen?
Oh yeah, we're talking about Phil Lyman case.
So we're starting to hear of these cases more and more. Certainly some of the cases up in Oregon where the levees were built and raised and basically flooded out ranchers until they left, and then BLM came in and reclaimed that territory. They were doing the backfires up there and burning down structures and cattle, trying to intimidate. And this isn't just in Oregon and Utah, as discussed in this congressional hearing down in St. George just last week. It's going on all over the place. I understand that there are over 200 million acres now that are under the BLM management, and then 700 million underneath the surface.
Right.
Where did this come from?
Yeah.
Is that constitutional? I don't think it is.
Well, and that's if you get the Representative Ken Ivory and the rest of the boys that are trying to get this done in the Senate this year, you're going to have a lot of pushback on this stuff. But in our county alone, the 35, I think, or 37% that the federal government owns, if we could just tax them in the Greenbelt part, which, would give us about $43 million a year.
Right.
Our entire budget for our county is only $30. What can we do for school children? And
Think
what can we
about
do
it.
for veterans? What can we do
Absolutely.
for homeless?
This is the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. I'm Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy, here on K-Talk Radio, AM 630. We are on the air right now with Stan Summers, who is the Box Elder County Commissioner up there, and we have callers calling in. I want to welcome Randy to the show. Randy, welcome.
Yeah, I just have to point out one thing here about the BLM. It's like everybody believes that they are some autonomy unto themselves, but they operate under administrative rulemaking, which that's where Congress is the lawmaking body, and they give these guys the administrative law that tells them how to administer their agency. This is all coming from Congress when you get right down to it.
Right.
So I don't, I've had to fight the BLM. I've had to threaten to sue them and things, and it was over getting elk on public land where there were no elk, where people that had cows there on the public land wanted all of the grass for their cows. And as a sportsman and I'm a member of an organization that supported the people that like to go hunting on the land, we wanted some elk. And so everybody's after the BLM from all sides.
Well,
but they get their authority to operate, in researching and getting ready to sue these guys and everything. I found out that they're just an administrative agency of the federal government, and the laws they operate. There's one called NEPA,
yes,
National Environmental Protection Act, and
right.
There's so many different interests that are vying for these public lands. So you can't give it all to one person because it's supposed to be managed under a multiple-use concept.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the big beef is and was down in St. George, that the representations that were made by the BLM, the promises that were made, and the compromises that were made were basically completely ignored.
Can I give you an example of what happened that I know of that happened around St. George?
Sure.
The federal government had inholdings of state school trust lands. That's where the federal government gave the state 1/9 of all the land they owned at statehood. There were, and it was a random of every township had so many sections in it that they designated which ones they were. But there were inholdings, like in national parks, where the state owned a square mile chunk within a national park or something that were virtually useless to the state. So there was a thing back in the 80s called Project Bold, and there were some consolidations where the state traded with the federal government, and the federal government gave the state a bunch of land around St. George that was formerly BLM land. It became state land. Well, as soon as the state got it, you know what happened with it? It was sold to developers for about $1,000 an acre, is what the state received for it. The developer came in, and that money was the state got was supposed to go to the schools,
right,
under the School Trust Management Acts and things. But when the developer got an acre, he would take it and divide it into 5 parcels that were selling for probably $80,000.
Okay.
A fifth of an acre. So they ended up getting about $400,000 to $500,000 out of the acre that the school that the state just sold for $1,000.
Okay, well, listen, I want to thank you. Thank you for calling in. We've got certainly a lot of stories out there, and we need to certainly pay attention to it. I want to thank you for joining us today.
Well, that wasn't maintaining a public trust. It wasn't.
That's exactly right, and that trust is what people are saying has been violated. One of the messages
it's
certainly
being violated by the state in this particular case.
Across the board, I think that's why. That's one of the issues. Certainly, Chris Stewart was bringing up that we don't have the trust that we need amidst our
There's
government
a lot
agencies.
of moneyed interests that are profiting at the expense of the general public.
Exactly. Thank you so much for calling in. We want to also get any comments that you may have, Stan, on that.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, a lot of that stuff is, like I said, SITLA is another part of the state government that has been designated to help with. We have plenty of SITLA property in Box Elder County also. We have been good about trying to get SITLA land for BLM land, because then SITLA land can actually be used for multiple use things, whether it's, potash companies or you want to go hunt on them and things. It's a lot easier to do SITLA properties than BLM.
Well, you're talking about some technical issues that I'm sure a lot of our listeners, as well as myself, are not up to speed on.
Right.
Thank you so much, though. We're running out of time. We're right up against the hour now. The hour went pretty darn quickly. Stan, thank you so much for calling in. Stan Summers, the Box Elder County Commissioner, who's been weighing in on a lot of the issues that we're talking about right now. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time. Let me know if I can help.
Absolutely. Thank you, my friend. This is Jeff Chamberlain, the Hollywood Y Guy. Yes, the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. We are at the top of our hour and going to be closing out coming up right now. I want to thank our sponsor, EOS Mobile, where your monthly bill goes to support this show and the only conservative candidates, causes of your choice. Go to EOSCELL.com for more information and mention the Liberty Lineup Radio Show. We are grateful for their support. We've got a great weekend ahead of us, folks, and we want to thank you for joining us in our fight to support causes of liberty and freedom. Sometimes we actually do have to fight. Roll up our sleeves and fight and work. Coming up. Let's have a good weekend.